The first rule, printed in copperplate on a plaque behind the counter at Caldera Coffee, was simple. We do not grind yesterday. Everyone in Portland had heard the rumors, slow-burning gossip that shot up like espresso steam whenever the moon was high, that Caldera's beans weren't beans at all. They were moments, harvested from the cusp between remembrance and forgetting, roasted in braziers etched with sigils, and tamped into portafilters treated with consecrated salt. Most customers dismissed the talk as kitsch marketing. To them, the little shop on S.E. Hawthorne was only another Portland curiosity, squeezed between a vinyl repair boutique and a tarot parlor. But those who frequented Caldera for the taste knew better. They could feel whole minutes blossoming on their tongues with each sip. A lost summer afternoon, the shiver of a first kiss, or the riotous drumline of a childhood thunderstorm. Ezra Miles, 27, post-punk hair and a barrister's practice smile, knew better still. He had been hired after proving he could keep steady hands while reciting the sigil-binding chant in Old Occitan. The pay was ordinary, the tips were decent, but the work felt equal parts priesthood and stage magic. Ezra liked that. He also liked his co-workers, Mala with her clockwork prosthetic wrist, and Quinn, whose laughter could jolt the dead. He was less fond of the head roaster, Cassandra Rivet, a severe woman who wore timepiece earrings and believed error to be the unforgivable sin. On the Thursday the city began unwinding, Ezra arrived for the opening shift. The shop smelled of cedar smoke and citrus peel from the night roast. Outside, rain stitched silver needles through ferryboat fog. Ezra flicked on the secret lights bowls filled with seawater and phosphorescent algae, then performed the routine inspection. Tamp pressure, grinder calibration, wardstones aligned in the 4 cardinal drawers. A single vial sat on the stainless steel counter, stoppered in black wax. Someone had chalked Summer 1977 on its label. Ezra might have ignored it if the wax hadn't been cracked, as though someone had already siphoned off a fraction of its contents. Protocol required him to catalogue stray vials in the ledger, but Cassandra's copperplate signature wasn't on the label. He decided to finish setup first. At 6:30, Portland seeped in, cyclists dripping rainwater, remote workers still pajama-blurred under parkas, and a handful of dawn magicians who smelled faintly of beeswax candles. The shop's normal rhythm took over. Order, invocation, pull, serve. Each espresso glowed faintly opal as it left the demitassina. The morning remained mundane until Addison Crow entered. Addison was a local sculptor of city-sanctioned gargoyles, known for curling lip piercings and thrift store trench coats. They liked their espresso violent and unfiltered, a double ristretto that tasted like the thunder of wet iron. Addison was one of Ezra's favourites, partly because they tipped with sketch-on-napkin caricatures of customers. Ezra reached for the kitchen sheet tin where the day's pulls awaited. Small scoops of roasted moments that Cassandra balanced into curated flights. But the tin, normally pitched full, was empty, apart from a single wayward bean. He felt a curl of alarm. The other canisters, Monday Morning 1993, Lullaby 2001, Equinox Sunset 1986, were all locked in the vault until Cassandra arrived. His eyes flicked to the summer 1977 vial. He should radio Cassandra, but his thumb had already nudged the wax open. Inside was a mosaic of scent. Cut grass heated by July sun, Polaroid flash, the plastic tang of slip-slide tarpaulin. Ezra's senses tingled. It was potent, older moments were denser, caramelizing on the tongue of memory like dark sugar. "Pour me lightning," Addison said, dropping 4 crumpled bills. Ezra's heart hammered. If he refused, Addison would shrug it off, but Cassandra would demand an explanation for a lost customer, and Ezra was tired of living under her perpetual squint. He measured out a single scoop, tamped it with ceremonial precision, murmured the binding phrase, "Quod vivit in corde manit in chalice." Let that which lives in the heart remain in the cup. When the espresso streamed, it shimmered emerald around the edges, brighter than anything Ezra had brewed. He set the demitasse before Addison, a halo of steam wreathing their face. Addison knocked it back in 2 swallows, eyes widening. A ripple ran through the shop. Pendleton blankets hanging on the wall fluttered as though buffeted by invisible wind. The neon open sign blinked, spelling OPEB before correcting itself. Holy hell, Ez! Addison's pupils dilated. That tastes like my dad teaching me to coast downhill without brakes, they laughed. Guitar string sharp. Is it me, or did the rain just stop? Ezra glanced out. Seconds ago, the street had been awash in drizzle. Now gutters were bone dry. The clock on the wall shuddered backward 3 seconds, then 5. His stomach dropped. The bell above the door chimed. A woman hurried in, breath clouding. Weirdest thing, she said, holding up her phone. My entire camera roll from yesterday vanished. Anyone else having iCloud issues? Ezra's skin prickled. He forced a grin, promising her a complimentary latte. By 8:30, Caldera was packed with patrons complaining about similar glitches. Missed calls, unsent texts, emails dated tomorrow that they swore they had sent. Cassandra arrived, hair swept into a vortex bun. She scanned the crowd, then pinned Ezra with basilisk eyes. In the office. Her tone could have frozen steam. In the back room, wards shaped like nautilus shells spiraled over the drywall. Cassandra's fingers brushed the cracked vial on the prep counter. She turned it so the label faced Ezra. Explain. He tried to. He tried to mention the empty canister, Addison's arrival, the instant demand. Cassandra listened in reef-called silence. Do you understand what you sold? She asked finally. That vial was not summer nostalgia. It was 63 contiguous hours stolen from the city's municipal archives. The first Rose Festival weekend of 1977, distilled during the blue moon. Raw civic memory, Ezra. We haven't proofed or aged it. Embarrassment roasted Ezra scarlet. I didn't know. It was open. A mouse hole is still a door. Cassandra's palm pressed into her temple. We can contain a single dose locally, but the vial is breached, and you poured most of it into a demitasse. Time will backwash to fill the void. She stepped to a shelf, retrieving a dusty folio. Day by day, Portland will regress. Ezra's throat tightened. And the sheets? Cassandra snapped the folio open, revealing tattered sketches of silhouette figures with hollow eyes. Where memory retreats, hunger follows. They will rise, drawn to the scent of unanchored time, feed on people's recollections until identity unspools. Can't we brew a countershot? We can, if we still possess enough present. She thrust a key into his palm. You broke it, you help mend it. We need memory of today, fresh and unsullied, to anchor the city. Track Addison. Their body is the fulcrum. Without them, the rift stays open. Ezra stuffed the key into his pocket and hurried back to the front. Addison was gone. In their wake sat a napkin caricature of Ezra wearing a crown, captioned King of Rewinds, ha ha. The drawing had been done in charcoal, flaking black dust. It looked decades old. Outside, the sun had reversed to dawn pink. Birds called morning songs, though it was nearly noon. Ezra mounted his bike and pedaled east, calling Addison's number. The subscriber you have dialed does not exist, an operator voice said. The first shade appeared near Mount Abel Reservoir. It looked like liquid graphite, body stretched thin as though smeared by wet paint. It drifted over a jogger who halted mid-stride. Ezra watched, horrified, as colour drained from the man's irises. The jogger shook his head, as if uncertain why he was outside, or what his shoelaces were doing tied. The shade thickened, now pulsing with faint shapes, maybe fragments of the man's stolen memories. Ezra pedalled harder. He found Addison's studio in a warehouse district, smelling of wet loam and patchouli. Their door stood ajar. Inside, half-carven gargoyles lay like dozing stone wolves. Addison hunched at a workbench, chiseling with feverish intensity. Addison, Ezra gasped. We need to talk about the shot I gave you. They looked up, eyes ringed dark. Shot? Oh, the coffee. That was... They paused, brow furrowed. Wait, did we hang out yesterday? It hasn't happened yet, Ezra said, stepping closer. You've become an anchor point. The city's unraveling, and shades are feeding on people's memories. Addison's chisel hovered. That explains the voicemails I found from my mother. She died 5 years ago. Their lips trembled. I listened to them and felt nothing. I can't remember her voice. Guilt stabbed Ezra. I have a way to fix this. We can brew a new shot using memories from today, yours, mine, anyone still aware. We pour it into the focus of an obelisk at Pioneer Courthouse Square, the city's beating heart. Cassandra's instruction rang in his ears. Present moments, not archived nostalgia. Addison exhaled. Then we'd better move before I forget how sculpting works. They gathered a satchel of tools, chisel, mallet, and a small flask of water to keep stone dust down. Ezra noted faint tremors in their hands, the early symptoms of memory drainage. They rode the streetcar west. The city outside flickered like an old VHS recording, scenes dropping frames. A billboard that had advertised an indie folk concert now touted a 1999 flip phone. As they disembarked, a child asked her mother, "What's Wi-Fi?" The mother opened her mouth, blank confusion flooding her expression. When they reached Caldera, the front windows were webbed with cracks. Inside, Muller brandished the steam wand like a flail, fending off 3 shades. The creatures writhed, abstract features shifting in wire waves. Muller's left sleeve had been torn, exposing bronze cogs of her prosthetic. "You two better have a plan," Quinn shouted from behind the pastry case, hurling croissants like soft missiles. Each pastry slowed the shades. Carbohydrates bound to comfort memories, Cassandra had explained once, but the shades dissolved the crumbs quickly. Ezra raced behind the counter. Cassandra stood before the espresso machine, channeling a sigil that glowed blue under her skin. "Did you find the anchor?" she asked. Ezra pulled Addison forward. Cassandra's eyes softened marginally. "Good, we need 15 grams of now." She gestured at a steel basin. "Fill it." "How?" Addison asked. "Speak." Cassandra inserted a crystal funnel into the basin. "Name the vivid details you can still recall that you don't want to lose. Each will condense into grounds." Addison swallowed. "Okay." The smell of epoxy in my studio, the sound of Ezra's bicycle chain clicking out of rhythm, the taste of jalapeno bagels from Rosen's this morning, the ache in my wrist after hammering basalt. As they spoke, black motes drifted from their lips, settling into the basin like ground coffee. Ezra did the same, offering memories, the cherry blossom petals clogging his jacket zipper, the laughter of tourists after he spelled their names wrong on to-go cups, the warmth of Cassandra's praise the first day he nailed the Occitan litany. Muller and Quinn joined, shouting snatches of present, until the basin filled. Cassandra tamped the powder, slid the portafilter into the group head, and pulled. The espresso that emerged wasn't opalescent, but sparkled like fresh-shorn cedar. She poured it into a stoppered bottle adorned with a temporal glyph. Ezra took it. "Pioneer Square." "No!" Cassandra said. "The city's day has already ticked back to 2005. Pioneer Square's bricks weren't fully renovated then. Its heart changes with construction permits. We anchor where Portland's essence endures, regardless of renovation. The river." "The Hawthorne Bridge?" Addison suggested. "Exactly. The oldest still working span. Midpoint, above the channel. Shades hate running water." Millar lobbed the last croissant. "Go. We'll keep them busy." Outside, dusk had become sunrise again. The Willamette flowed eerily still, its surface reflecting a skyline that flickered between decades. Big pink faded to scaffolding, then reassembled. Shades patrolled the riverbanks, nosing through grass like hunting hounds. Ezra and Addison sprinted onto the Hawthorne Bridge's metal grating. As they reached the center arch, The bottle thrummed in Ezra's grip, searing cold at the cork. Behind them, the clatter of metal announced pursuit. Half a dozen shades rose from the bridge's steel beams, elongated arms dragging. Each step left frost on rivets. Addison opened their satchel and withdrew the chisel. "I can distract them. You pour." Ezra uncorked the bottle. The espresso inside writhed, constellations swirling. He felt weightless. The liquid contained every today he and the others had surrendered. Meanwhile, Addison slammed the chisel against the bridge rail, sending sparks. The shades shifted direction, drawn to the clang-sound memories, vibrant and fresh. Ezra inhaled, then tipped the bottle over the railing. Instead of falling, the espresso formed a ribbon of light that coiled downward, striking the river like a filament. A thunder crack reverberated. Water erupted, throwing up whitecaps that gleamed gold. The ribbon expanded into a sphere, air vibrating with overlapping voices. Laughter from 15 minutes ago, the scuff of Mala's automatic wrist, Quinn's off-key singing. The shades shrieked, clutching their heads as smoke hissed from their forms. One lunged at Ezra, but the aura of the sphere seared its limbs. It dissolved into drifting ink. Addison cried out. Another shade had pierced them, siphoning. Ezra watched Addison's shoulders slump, eyes darkening. He gritted his teeth, stepped forward, and caught Addison by the collar. "Give me one more memory," Ezra pleaded. "Anything." Addison's gaze fluttered. "Your hair, when you tuck it behind your ear. You look like you're about to apologize for the whole universe." They smiled weakly. "That's my favorite moment." The words evaporated as motes, funneling into the sphere. It blazed white. Shades scattered like roaches exposed to floodlights, then pitched into the river where flowing water shredded them. There was silence. Ezra's ears rang, heart jackhammering. The glow dimmed, condensing into a single droplet that re-entered the bottle now lying on the bridge. He caught it, trembling. Addison sagged against the rail. "Did it work?" Traffic honked somewhere upriver. The skyline settled into modern Angle's 2013 renovations intact. Neon craft beer signs aglow. A TriMet bus rumbled across the bridge, its digital display showing the correct date. THU4 Ma. Ezra exhaled. "I think so," but Cassandra had warned there was always a price. Ezra looked at Addison, whose gaze was vacant. "Addie." They blinked slowly. Do I know you?" They glanced at the chisel in their hand. "Whose tool is this?" Ezra's throat tightened. The shades had eaten deeper than he'd realized. He half expected despair to swallow him, but instead a quiet resolve rose. He had stolen Addison's present. He would help rebuild their future. "You're an artist," Ezra said softly. He offered a palm. "And I made you coffee this morning. How about we make another cup my treat, and I'll tell you the whole story." Addison studied him, lines of confusion etched around their eyes. Then, slowly, they placed their hand in his. Back at Caldera, dawn crawled once more across the ceiling's sea-film bulbs. The shop looked untouched. No broken glass, no scorch marks, only the usual smell of charred citrus peel. Yet, Ezra could sense faint emptiness where hours had been rewoven. Like a frayed sweater restitched, the city would carry small, loose threads. Cassandra greeted them with a weary nod. "The rift is sealed. Good work." "But Essen," Ezra began. Cassandra's gaze softened. Memory loss is asymmetrical. Some may recover over time, aided by familiar stimuli. She held out the restored bottle. "You and they shared this harvest. Small doses, carefully administered, could coax recollection. Won't that risk another rewind? We'll dilute it, tamper it, serve it alongside strong black coffee, real beans. No moment." She almost smiled. "Portlanders can't tell the difference anyway." Ezra smirked despite himself. He guided Addison to the bar stool near the window, the one they'd always chosen. Quinn slid over a Plang latte. Molla wound her mechanical wrist with a satisfyingly brisk click. Ezra uncorked a bottle, letting a single shining bead fall into a spoon of steamed milk. He handed it to Addison. They sipped, cautiously. A slow spark lit in Addison's eyes. That flavour, they whispered. Like coasting downhill without brakes. They touched Ezra's wrist. And you were there, weren't you? Ezra nodded, tears forming. I still am. Outside, a new rain began. Present rain with no ghosts in it. Portland carried on, neon reflected in puddles, bicyclists weaving, and somewhere under the river, a single drowned shade rolled over, sighing into nothing. Caldera coffee stayed warm against the early spring chill. The hum of the espresso machine steady, protecting the boundary between what had happened and what could still be made. Ezra and Addison sat side by side, piecing together today, sip by sip. Proof that sometimes a whole city can hinge on one imperfect barista trying his best not to grind yesterday